This is a teardown of an e-bike hub motor. MXUS is the manufacturer, XF07. That's the model. I only bought it for the planetary gear, so I already knew it's broken. That's the disc brake stuff. And I noticed when I took it apart that here the aluminium structure really did break. So this was no longer perfectly in place. That's a stator with a coil. It could be, I could glue it together and then put a tape here on the back side and fill it with epoxy resin and carbon to make it stable again. Maybe I will do it, but as I said, for the planetary gear. And so just for me to remember how to put all these things back in order to get a full motor again. So this is a tear down in the at the finished state. So I know the first thing I noticed was that the red cable for the 3 hole sensors, they are here. 1 hole sensor, 2nd hole sensor, and a 3rd hole sensor. These are, you can cheaply buy them, so they could even be replaced. So the right pin is output, the middle pin is ground, and the red pin, the left one, is 5 volt, coming here from here. And the red cable was somewhere broken inside, and that's, I think, is a bit of this design mistake, because I had hoped that I could pull the stator away in this direction, so that the cable would be pulled out and I could fit it in so and could pull it out. But as you can see here, there's a ring on the metal, so the stator can only be pulled out this way. You have to remove a spring here. I will begin shortly to tell the order, and pull it this way, and then you really you have to really cut off all these cables simply by pushing the stator out from this shaft. And therefore you have to really, I should have to remove this before, but so you see, I had to cut it here or something. That's a bit strange. There's a hole here inside. I think that's needed to push the cable. So you push it from the left, and then through this hole you get it to come out on this side, and then afterwards you solder it to the coils. And so there's really no way to remove the stator without destroying the cable. I think that's a bit of design mistake, because everything is coming from the right side, but only the stator is coming from the left side, and everything that's coming from the right side is fixed with these springs. It could, or there would, I think, no problem to also let this stator coming from the right side. So let's continue. So this is the spring here, as I said, from the right side to prevent the stator from going to the left. And so once, where are we here? This thing, then there comes a stator or the parts, about some copper spring, and here, as I said, another spring. So the stator is also already fixed by 2 springs, so there would not really be the need for this. But anyway, and then this thing is already fixed. There is this thing here to keep it irgendwie from rotating, and that's where the aluminium broke off. And once you have this back, then you can put on the outside the magnet. That's very nice. It has two strong bearings on both sides. So this comes from the right onto this. Once you have it in plate, then yes, then you can fasten the sun gear onto this stuff. then a small copper ring, another copper ring, and then another spring which will hold the sun gear connected with the outrunner from not falling apart, moving apart. So we are right now here, then small, very thin things, rings, and then this blocking thing. So right now we are here. Yeah, that can put in sin. So this here, the middle thing, that's where the sun gear is, and here it's the thing. So that's here where the stator mount is, and on top the outrunner, and here is the sun gear, and in this thing there will be the planetary planet carrier, and therefore there is this hole here where you put in this metal thing, so the planet, then you can put on the planet carrier. Well, and finally another spring to keep the planet carrier from moving apart. So this is the outer spring for the planet carrier, and this is the inner spring, which is a bit strange, like this. So you have to push it from the side, which prevents from the planet carrier to move more inside, and prevents the sun gear, which is connected to the outrunner, from moving outside. And then there's the last spring to prevent the sun gear with the outrunner to move to the left, and on here goes the stator, and the stator is fixed by this metal ring on the shaft, and the last final spring here to prevent this from going outside. And the cable is a bit strange. So I guess you have, when everything is mounted, then you have to fit in the cable and solder it. Yeah, so this is the way you tear it apart. And yeah, this can be unscrewed. So you need a tool with these three things, or you can take a plier for me it did work to only fix it, hold it with 2 points, and yeah, a little thing like that to put the shaft in here, so you can really utilize a bit of force. You can release all these springs with simply screwdrivers, but of course there are special tools for these, and I really, if you do this more than one time, then I suggest you get such a plier to remove the springs. Yeah, for me it's also a bit interesting because this is a 5-to-1 ratio, and that's another thing. The outside usually is rotating, and so people might, there are ways to connect a sprocket to it and then use it as a mid-motor driver, but it should be possible to make this fixed. So there's a gear here, the ring is really the fixed ring, and then the planet carrier should be able to rotate. Right now the planet carrier is fixed to the shaft, yeah, as you can see here, but the shaft between, more sharp, where the sun gear is in place, could be angle grinder simply cut off, and then this thing could become the output. So the planet carrier would become the output. The ring here could be the static piece, and the sun gear could be the from the outrunner, from the motor, so for the input. Then the gear ratio would increase from 5-to-1 to 6-to-1, and you would have the output to the side, so it would be more easy to connect the sprocket to the output shaft here. Right now, the output shaft, the part here, would only be fixed by one bearing, which might not be enough if the sprocket has a lot of tension. So, but you could mill off this stuff, put a bearing on it, which runs inside of the sun gear. This is 14 millimeters. So if you have a 14 millimeter outer diameter bearing and maybe a radial bearing with 5 millimeter inside diameter, then you could mill this after you've cut it off, mill it down to 5 millimeter, put a bearing on it, or you could use an axial bearing, and then you would only have to mill it down to 8 millimeter or 10 millimeter. That would be a way to transform such an outrunning hub motor to a radial, where you could use on the output a small sprocket. And for me, it's also interesting, this is designed for, let's say, 25 kilometer per hour max. So let's say the most efficient point would be 20 kilometers per hour. And if I would remove this 5-to-1 gearing and connect it directly to my gear sprocket from my solar car, which has a 9-to-1. So I would remove the 5-to-1 to 9-to-1. Then the 20 kilometers per hour would become 11 kilometers per hour. And right now my solar car is limited to 6 kilometers per hour, which is already quite close to 11 kilometers per hour. And so there is also the idea that I could really use this without a gearing and simply directly put it into two of them in use for my solar car, because then it would be super silent, yeah. And so maybe I will try to repair it, and then I will have this outrunner and use a planetary gear for my solar tractor. Yeah. Okay. That's a teardown again. If you want to remove first a spring to remove the planet carrier, then it's this bolt, and then the next spring that's behind the planet carrier. Then you go on. Then you can unscrew the sun gear. Then you can. What is this for? We could still keep it in this one. This last spring is for preventing that the sun gear together with the planet carrier would move into the stator. You could keep this because the stator has to be pulled out the other side. So then you remove this spring and then you pull off the stator to the left. So this spring, or is it that one? Yeah, I think it's that one. Is not true. You could keep it in place. You see only this one to get the sun gear out and this one to get the planet carrier out. Yeah, bye-bye. Maybe someone will be happy to see that teardown of an MXUS hub gear motor. Okay, thank you. Bye-bye.